Well, with Korea preparing to take its first steps under new leadership, the world is waiting to see what the country's primary move will be. Joining me now is the editor of the Japan-based news website CorbettReport.com, James Corbett. Mr. Corbett, many thanks for joining us here on RT. South Korean media is reporting that the North has just test-fired a ballistic missile. If that is true, what sort of message do you think is being sent here?
Well, if it's true that nature abhors a vacuum, it must be especially true when it comes to nuclear-armed states when we talk about global geopolitics. So this is obviously an extremely tense situation in a lot of ways, and I think any new regime in North Korea is looking to assert its power and to show that it obviously still exists on the world stage, and that this is not going to destabilize the country. So it might just be saber-rattling for the sake of saber-rattling at this point, but it is quite a tense situation, and of course we see Asian currencies reacting with the weakening of Asian currencies across the board in the wake of this destabilization. So it's quite a tense situation, and one would imagine that diplomats of every stripe from all the corners, especially the parties of the now defunct six-party talks, would be interested in getting their fingers in this pie and trying to stabilize the relations now, especially because, of course, we know North Korea is a nuclear-armed country with international ballistic missiles.
And, of course, stability is the key word. It's what we're hearing from all corners. It's what people want on that Korean peninsula. Why do you think the North is seemingly wanting to isolate itself from the world at this critical point?
Well, I think the North has always been the sort of madwoman in the attic when it comes to East Asian politics, and it serves, I think, a useful function for a number of parties in the region. Not only as a sort of proxy for China, which has been really propping up the regime internationally by giving it its support on the international stage, which can then use the menace of North Korea and be seen to be keeping North Korea in line. But it also serves a sort of a strange function on the stage for example, the United States, which one would think would be interested in disarming North Korea. But in fact, in every single stage of North Korea's nuclear armament, the United States has been deeply involved with that. Not only the arming of the North Korean regime with 2 light water reactors back in the 1990s under Clinton, but the fact that deal was processed by a company called ABB, who just happened to have on its board at the time that deal went through none other than former U.S. Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld. And then the other vector by which North Korea supposedly became a nuclear-armed nation was through the AQ-Con network, which we now know through a series of whistleblowers and courtroom document revelations and leaked documents that AQ-Con network was infested from top to bottom with CIA and other assets of the American intelligence. So it's, in a strange way, America has been deeply involved with the nuclear arming of North Korea, and it plays a very interesting counterpoint to the hysteria that we see going on over the possibility that Iran might one day develop a nuclear weapon. Well, here we have a nuclear-armed state that's been lobbing missiles over our head here in Japan for years now, and threatening the entire region, and yet they've just walked away from those talks for the last 2 years. So it plays a very strange role in East Asian relations right now.
Well, just returning to immediately what's happened here, I mean, official reaction from Washington is that it is committed to stability on the Korean Peninsula and to the freedom and security of its allies, and it says that it's closely monitoring the situation on the peninsula. But it is tense there, as you were saying. South Korea is on high alert. Japan's warning of conflict, and China is sending its troops into the border with the North. Why do you think that these countries see danger in the power succession in North Korea at this point?
Well, it might be based on the false premise that Kim Jong-il really held any of the power in the day-to-day functioning of North Korea, which, of course, is just a military regime, and Kim Jong-il was really just window dressing for that regime. And in fact, as that report that we just listened to on RT mentioned, there are rumors that he's been dead for a number of years now. And, of course, we did have that strange succession ceremony last year where his son was officially appointed the successor back in September. And we had mainstream media, even the London Telegraph at the time, reporting that, in fact, Kim Jong-il was already dead. So to a certain extent, I think that this change in leadership is really just a change in window dressing. But it could be used by a number of different parties, including the military dictatorship in power, to I guess, as a wild card to shake up relations. And of course, until we have some sort of normalization of the situation, it will remain a very, very tense situation here for the foreseeable future. So that's why I think there are so many very interested parties in this at the moment, trying to see how things will play out. And of course, if these reports of missiles being launched are true, then obviously this could be a very, very, very potentially deadly and escalating situation. So we have to keep our eyes on it.
Indeed. Okay, James Corbett, editor of the Japan-based news website CorbettReport.com. Thank you for those thoughts.